Welcome to the hour of 8 this lovely morning, a brand new week, and of course a Monday as we wind up the month of November to usher us into the month of December. Of course, we know this is when all hopes are high to celebrate Christmas. Yes, COVID has had its way, but now coming to 2 years, there are situations that we believe we've gotten used to in one way or the other. Here at Good Morning Uganda, we never cease or tire to remind you to go and get vaccinated so that your life is safe and we can avoid death as a result of COVID-19 because we did not get vaccinated. But equally, with the new variant, we encourage you, please, let's perfect the standard operating procedures. Have your mask on, social distance, not touch the soft parts of your body without sanitizing, or regular wash of your hands with water and soap. Once again, I'm Robert Chirabo, and this is Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now, in this segment, we have guests in studios. We address issues of national concern, and you're able to give us feedback by simply going onto your mobile phone or any source of the internet and sending your questions, your views, your opinions on that topic of discussion. This lovely morning, we are going to be discussing, that is the Nssf Amendment Bill 2021. We must recall this was passed by the 10th Parliament and sent to the President for him to assent to the bill. However, he had some issues with it and it was sent back to Parliament. Remember, when Parliament passes a bill, the President is given 30 days to either assent to or reject the bill and throw it back to the House. Upon notification, 30 days are taken. Parliament on Thursday last week passed the bill, and now we await for His Excellency. Now, joining me on set to discuss this is Dr. Honorable Byakatonda Abdul, who happens to be the Workers MP in the 11th Parliament. He's also the member of the Gender Committee of Parliament, but also member of the Public Accounts Committee, Local Governments. Honorable, you're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Robert. I want to thank the management of UBC for availing me with this opportunity to discuss this very important topic, which impacts greatly on the lives of people. Yeah. I think Ugandans out there, I want to thank you for really being patient, because there are a lot of speculations. There is no money, the bill will not be assented to. But I would like to assure you, as a member of the Gender Committee and the Workers' Member of Parliament, that so far so good. Yeah.
Honorable, assuring us so far so good. Let's first look back at the origin of this bill. We know Nssf is Social Security Fund.
Yes.
Money that is meant to help people in this corporate world that finally, when they are done with meaningful employment, there's something to sustain them.
When they are no more.
When they
60, that's what they normally think.
When they are no more. Let's look
60.
at, first and foremost, the intention or the history of this issue of mid-term benefits. Where do we drive this from?
I think thank you very much, Robert. One is that the Nssf stems its existence from ILO Convention. And this is prominently 102, which came into being in 1954. So the world over, it's a practice that which was coined that I think when people get old, they need social security, so that it can be a fallback position for them in a way of medical, in a way of housing, in a way of education. I think this has a number of branches, and of course the member countries like Uganda, I'm obligatory to choose about 3 branches. For example, in Uganda, we had the retirement, which you talk of 60 years, and then you can actually go. Then we are talking of, I think, injury and survivor's benefit in the case of death, all these and others. So, but I think for the case of Uganda, I think we must say we have taken a number of innovations. One of such innovations was that instead of the money being for social security and being lumped there, so that when Ruben retires is given, one, we have the Nssf has actually invested this money, and it normally accumulates. And by so doing, they normally give very good interest, by the way. When any Ugandan one would like to invest money, I think Nssf is one of the destinations you can go to. Because at time, it has even ever gone to 12.5%. And yet even at banks, maybe the biggest money when you fix it is about 9%. But this has even gone there. Then the other one is that, of course, we have now opened up something called voluntary saving. It has been there, but not actually prominent. But now, under the law, Robin can actually be deducting the 5%, and then the employer gives you the 10%. Then you can also say, I'm also adding my money. So that it grows, you can also add another income voluntarily, so that you can actually, it can be twofold. Then when you retire at 60, it's now allowed you can also save your money again. And even those people in the informal sector and even those that not in formal employment can also save money. But suffice to mention what your question is, why the midterm access? Midterm access comes in because as workers leaders, way back in 2020, at the emergence of the coronavirus in March 2020, we realized that at least business was very slow. People had no fallback position. And we realized that maybe the savers can actually access some midterm access to help them. Because we are talking of midterm access, because mid means the midway before you retire. Because let's say it's a line, and you have started from the saving. You have been employed today, this month, and you started the saving. So you are saying now, as you move towards the end of your saving and benefits, you are now getting some midterm access so that you can actually help yourself. So we wanted to, the leaders was premised on the fact that at least let's have access so that people can actually privilege the situation, which was actually not upcoming. So this mentioned, we had a number of engagements with government, a number of engagements with the president, and in the 10th parliament, it was actually incorporated, and the parliament then passed the law to give people midterm access. However, there were a lot of speculations, misconceptions. People were saying, when we give you this midterm access, the fund will be depleted. I think that made the concern over the president, and we had a number of engagements. The recent past was when we, on the 16th of this month, when His Excellency actually, we gave him facts and figures. You see, he promised dialogue, that's the good thing. And he gave us an ear, a listening. So when we briefed him, all stakeholders, Nssf, Minister of Works, Minister of Gender and Labour, and that's the workers, MPs, and other leaders of the centers, not one COF2, he realized he got actual information verbatim and said, okay, I think earlier to the earlier perception, I think I get the point. So now this is meant to leverage the situation under the pandemic. So that at least now, under Section 24, we have amended A, and we are saying any person who has attained 45 years and has served for 10 years can access up to 20%. Initially it was at least, but now we say 20%. 20% because we don't want any gaps. We filled all the gaps, so that at least 20% can actually be accessed by the person. This is going to help, because it's going to help the savers access the money. For example, Mr. Robert, you will realize that you can be saving and you're even 50 years. But maybe you have got a loan, and maybe the loan has gone bad, but your house is being taken, but you can't access. But now under this arrangement, one, you can solve your problem. If you are talking of housing, you can even have a decent house for yourself if that's your intention. If it's business, you can actually have business. So this law is going to have a spillover effect now, and people are going to have confidence in the fund. Because the key issue has been, why do you save and wait for retirement? Wait for to clock 60 years. And you realize that now this is a litmus test. Because it is going, one, to actually impart skills among the people. In the Uganda they say, seka ukakalika kulumieko, ngokalaba ngokolachi, ngobuka. So now, if you access this and you misuse it, then you will know, oh, I think I made an error here.
Yes, Honorable, rightly talking about this midterm, of course, there's so much excitement among the workers that have been saving. And of course, we know not so many Ugandans are saving with Nssf. Actually, about maybe 2 million Ugandans are saving with Nssf. Let's look at the impact of this. Relatively, you've given us the intention was to remedy some of these shortcomings. But let's look at its impact. How many savers of Nssf do you think have saved for 10 years and are entitled to benefit from this? Because there is a feeling that a person who has saved for 10 years and has meaningful amount of money maybe may not even run for their savings. Yeah,
I think this figure is not really very big, but it can be significant because in terms of allotting finances, we realize that when we give all those people that money, the fund can be ready for below $1 trillion. Out of actually the 15 trillion.
So we need about
1 trillion to cover these people. And now the other thing which suffice to mention is that one, not everybody will rush for his money. Because people know they have intentions. Somebody is saying, I want to retire as a giant, an economic giant. I want to retire and actually open up a petrol station out of my money. I want to retire and form a ranch. When I retire, I want to buy 600 acres of land for those big savers. I want to buy 5 acres of land. I want to open up a poultry machine. So people actually, not everybody would rush for this money. But that said, it's 1 trillion, about 1 trillion that can be privileged. It can service this all savers. And we also now have added into the law people with disabilities. And we are saying people with disabilities who have attained 40 years can access up to 50%. You see, the belief was that when people with disabilities are seen, they are insignificant. But we are saying disability is not inability. And we realize that these people are not very many. So when we have given them at 40, attaining 40 years, having served for 10 years, they can access up to 50%.
50% of their savings, yes.
And now we see that this was premised on the fact that their life expectancy is very low. If you strain them, it means they cannot actually be able to live longer. So this can give them a fallback position to settle on. Then the other thing, when a person with disability loses a job, it is normally very difficult. First of all, entry is very restrictive. The society doesn't believe that they can actually perform like any other person. So even when they lose a job under this COVID, I think getting another job is difficult. So you feel when they get up to 50%, they can settle into other ventures. You realize that I've been to border areas like Busia. You find that the most active people in that inter-border trade are people with disabilities. They do a lot of business there. So I think we believe when we give this money, this fund access, they can actually be able to, one, impact on the economy, and ensure that their livelihood is sustained in terms of business and other aspects of investment. So that's why we've given them that money. And what I would like to tell the listeners and viewers is that it doesn't impact greatly on the fund because their number is very limited.
Away from impacting on the fund, we just want to clearly also better understand. Yes. Talk briefly about the content where now we know who is entitled to get this money. You've saved for your 10 years, you clock your 45, then you can access the money. For disabilities like that, you've said they get 50% of this. But Honorable, there are fears also of squandering this money. In this bill, we don't see any kind of preparation. Maybe that will come at the ministerial level and maybe the board of Nssf. How we prepare these people? Because 20% may not be so much to many people, more that we don't, now that we don't have even a minimum wage in our country, that 20%, yes, I agree, a business, even you can start a business with 50,000, but to many savers, their 20% of Nssf may not be so much of that. So if you are going to break on this lump sum that one would get from the end, how are we preparing these people not to just squander this money? And you know, Ugandans have this big challenge. Even when people get commercial loans, the rate of payment, a number of people end up losing their assets. So that's way to avoid people squandering, then regretting yet this portion has been taken.
I think, one, I want to allay the fear of Ugandans. Because when we talk of squandering, it means either it is a lottery or it is just an informal thing which is not organized. The Nssf is one of the institutions that is a government body, and which is under the constitution, which is even under, because we have even put a dual supervision, where we are saying now Minister of Finance can basically look at investment and accounting issues, financing. But policy issues, including appointing board of directors, has gone to the Minister of Labour, Gender and Social Development. And we have auditor general in place who should actually audit and has been auditing this institution. So I think what we are talking about is our systems. The systems will be
to the beneficiaries, the side of the beneficiaries.
And the
constitutional level, yes,
the side of the beneficiaries, I think it has not been easy. Because one, there is where they say, I think the access has been on attaining mandatory age. The other one has been if you have 50 years and you have been unemployed for at least 2 years. Then the other one is when you're sick. They have a mechanism where you go to a doctor and you should prove that really this Robert here is HIV and really very unable to perform. Then that's when you can access. So systems are going to be refined later. And of course, what I must say is that one, there is management, and they are now saying, because in the bill, they were saying the executive, the managing director should should have voting powers. I think at the committee and even at Parliament, they said no, let him be an ex officio and bring issues to the board. The board is the policy-making organ. So this board should be supervised clearly on terms of financing, investment, and announcing interest, means of finance. Then the policy issues that pertain to social security are going to be under means of gender. So the Nssf, like any other body, is a body which is accountable. These are fund managers and they're accountable to the savers. And systems are in place. And us as Parliament, I think our role is oversight. So we are going to see if we said, if the law is very clear now, 45 years must have served 10 years and up to 20%. Why did you give 50%? So this becomes a query. So I think I want to allay the fear of the savers and the Ugandans that can't arise. And the issue is that one, most of these aspects are going to be administrative on what do you require to access the money. Do you have an application form? Must you produce your national ID? Do you give your bank account? Do you adduce the evidence that you're safe? I think these are administrative. But for us in the law, we're just ensuring that we need the midterm access. And once the midterm access is guaranteed, that it can be okay. And of course, the issues of mismanagement, they say, beaten once, twice is shy. I think the experience on record where people have actually attempted to mismanage the fund and have ended up into a lot of mess.
Right, but let's look at the issue of voluntary savers.
Yes.
That's something that the amendment brings in.
Yes.
There are fears that these people can withdraw, maybe at any time.
Yes.
And I remember one of the members on the committee said we should be very careful because Nssf is not a bank. It is a social fund.
Yes.
During this amendment, what are safeguards to this fund as well?
No, now the issue is that the only difference between a mandatory saver and a voluntary saver is that one, a voluntary saver is a target person. You will say, I want to put my money for 1 year, so that it accumulates, I get this interest which is ongoing, and then I will use it at such and such a time. So for this person, these people, they don't have restrictions. They would get in, but of course they are not going in as a bank, maybe come tomorrow and do this, but I think there are terms and conditions that must be administratively put in place. So to say, Mr. Kivirango is maybe a saver, a mandatory, but now he wants an additional voluntary saving, so that he grows his fund. So when you bring this, there should be a separation between the other mandatory, which you can only be accessed under mid-term or under mandatory retirement age. But then there is the voluntary aspect. If I want to invest somewhere, I can actually be able to access the money and do business. But that said, what is important is that people must understand that when you put your money here, you don't go wrong. It is one of the institutions that we have in Uganda, in the country. Of course, there are insurance companies that also have started that component of saving under certain arrangements. But of course, the percentage here is normally very enormous. And now, with this, we are saying, if, for example, maybe you have clocked 60 years and got your money, you should not be actually banned to save. You should voluntarily now save again, because you will have actually seen the benefits. Oh, when I saved, I got my 200 million. But now I've invested. My business is doing well. I can now again do what? Invest so that I grow more fund. I think this is the spirit within which we are trying to attempt. Because under National Development Plan 3, social security is very prominent. Under the principles and the principles of the constitutions, I think most of them are talking about social security. Even under Article 33B of the Constitution, all these are prominent. And when you, suffice to mention, even when you look at the global arena, we are looking at about 20 conventions and certain recommendations global under the ILO. So all these are very important aspects. So I think Uganda is one of the destinations, and with this, I envisage that one, it is going to spur development, because people can now access capital. You realize that I want to urge the savers who have actually clocked the 45 years and can access midterm access to look at investment. They should separate between the rota and, because these are hard-earned savings. You saved them because you volunteered to say, let me save. And now that you have actually, you can access it at 45. Invest, so that even after retirement, you'll even have more capital coming into your business.
To grow your business.
And when you diversify, it is very important, because there has been manipulation from financial institutions. For example, some people can say, hey, I'm giving you this money, but at the interest of 45%. What's that? So it has been exploitative in some of the aspects. So what is important now, you have capital. This should be an opportunity for you to invest and grow business, such that as you're working here, your business is also growing elsewhere. And it's very important. Because
but what is the guarantee to that, Honorable, that really people are going to invest this money? Yes, it is their own money.
Yes.
They have saved for this money, and they have come to, and now it is an opportunity that the law, if assigned to by the president, one can know, you know, this is not money, maybe where there is collateral, maybe there is security, and people would fear to do that. What is the guarantee that this money is not just going to be given to Ugandans
and they
qualify,
run away with it,
and they just end up spending it at the end of the day befitting the percentages they would have retired with?
No, I think what we need to do, one, let's let Ugandans develop a mindset change. I think, like I've told you, Corona pandemic has actually provided a live example where somebody could be locked in the house and could not access even the basics. So why don't you really go to the house when your bank account is actually very fat? You can now have capital, you have grown your capital. It's very important. Otherwise, if we have these tendencies to imagine abuse of funds, of our own funds as a culture, then we shall be doomed. Countries that have grown have actually planned at household level. Because what I'm envisaging, for example, now you are looking at government programs. Look at the plan, what is this Paris development model? When this money is released, these people want input. Why don't you go and invest and build the supply of inputs? Why don't you invest and build a contractor? Why don't you build the capital? So that as you are here, you also become an employer. You're actually doing business. I think what is important is to see that at least we not actual abuse. That has been common. People have had resources, and we have examples where people get money and it is abused. So I want to urge Ugandans, especially the savers in this category, to change their mindset and look at investment as a key issue. Actually, I would say that there be 3 objectives: 1, investment; 2, investment; and 3, investment.
Well, let me just remind our viewers that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by simply going to our various social media platforms. Please send us an SMS, send us a WhatsApp message on the number that is 0709 60 25 92, 0709 60 25 92. And the Honorable Member of Parliament, who happens also to be a member of that is the Gender Labour Committee of Parliament, is here with us. People that did the pushing to ensure that first this bill was back to Parliament, having been passed by the 10th Parliament. Then the President returned it to change a few clauses there, but now it was passed. So they have been behind this, pushing and pushing to see that it is back, discussed, and finally was passed Thursday last week. You can be part of the topic of discussion. Please just use our social media platforms, and I'll be reading out all your concerns to my guests in studio, and I believe we'll be responding to many of these. Honorable, how sustainable is this? You know, when you're giving us the background to the midterm benefits, you alluded to COVID-19.
Yes.
Today we've just heard, actually the world is now in a panic over a new variant. So what happens? Will we again go and drain the fund because of another insurgent or another situation similar to this? Should we have, how sustainable is this? Was this a wise thought?
I think, one, based on the folio, the investment folio, based on the fund capacity, I think we can handle. And the midterm access doesn't mean when the variance comes again, we shall review and give you another midterm access. It is once in a lifetime. So at that time until you to reach mandatory age. So if you must, what I must urge is that people must get it strategically. Because when you get it, don't think again tomorrow you're going to get midterm access. It is once, like you get at a retirement age. So what's important here is that one, let's observe SOPs, but let's look at strategic businesses for investment. Until we have got something to do with this money, my advice would be don't even access it. Because it is not compulsory that you must actually access it. But what's important is that you must have relief and continue to live. That was the spirit which the workers' leaders envisaged. And it would defeat logic to say that at least somebody who accesses it, then tomorrow is actually in a bad situation. This should be a push. So that at least, even if it's an old vehicle and then they push you, people would get tired again to push you here and then they push you at a different stage. They will say, I think you're going to repair your vehicle. But if they push it once and then the vehicle starts and moves on in motion, then everybody will know at least the support we gave was actually relevant. So I want to urge all the savers, Ugandans, that let's strategically focus on this as it comes out. Because one, in our discussion with His Excellency the President on the 16th of this month, I think it was in principle. When we had dialogue, we had interface and raised issues, facts and figures, to which he said, I think it's okay. So I'm optimistic that when the bill reaches him, these are facts which are already discussed and can be assented to any time. And once it's done, then these administrative issues are going to be put in place. How does somebody access? So Nssf by now could be making preparations adequately to handle this system. And like now, you realize that previously somebody used to dwell a lot to access money in Nssf, but these days, upon mandatory age, it is very easier to access money because of the systems they have set in place. So I would urge them to further develop the system so that when it starts, savers who have identified what we don't want to access can be able to access money within a very short time without a scuffle.
Honorable, let's look at some of the questions that are coming in or concerns from our viewers. I want to thank you so much and please keep them coming in. Good morning, kindly ask Honorable Byakatonda, how about someone who has attained the age of 45 but has not saved for 10 years? Secondly, what's the definition of disability in regards to the Nssf bill?
Yeah, somebody that is 45 years and not saved for 10 years, I think you fall out of the range. And of course, this was because if they said everybody should go to Nssf, then the money would be depleted. I think that one can also wait and continue saving. Then about the definition of disability, that's as per the People with Disability Act of 2020. It defines, and I think as a committee we're saying, let it be defined as per that act. So for anybody who wants to know who is a person with disability, then look at that act. It is a detailed act with all the aspects of disability. I cannot actually enumerate all of the aspects pertaining to the disability. Yeah.
There are also fears of bureaucracy and time taken for one to access. People say that if at retirement age it has been taking someone time, then what about midterm benefits?
Of course, yeah, it is true. Previously, it used to be a hassle when somebody has reached mandatory age, but recently, the recent past has actually improved. I must bear witness. People have ever known people who have ever gone there and within a fortnight, 1 month, they have their money. Of course, what is important is identification. At times, people lose their savings cards. These are the things that the challenges that have been delaying. They have been structural, I mean, but not administrative. But administratively, I think systems have been put in place. So let's allay the fear of the bureaucracy. Once this has been accepted and is in law, then I wouldn't like, because we are saying now competencies. This has just got a new board which will make policies appropriately. The management is actually available and they will a lot of competencies. I'm optimistic they will actually be able to save the savers within that as a range and with ease. Yeah, so we urge the Nssf to make sure that they make systems, they should be preparing by now as the law comes into offering.
Finally, Honorable, before I let you go, let's look at also another clause in this that requires employers to ensure they pay or face a jail sentence of 5 years and then also pay the arrears. This is something aimed at growing the fund.
Yes.
But what is the possibility? Because even in the old law, we knew it was mandatory for employers to do this.
And I think now that just is under Section 13. The committee was the previous act, which was not the previous bill of 2019 was saying that imprisonment of 3 years and a fine of 10,000 currencies, which is about 10 million. But recently, when it came to the floor of Parliament, the Committee of Parliament and the plenary, it was agreed that now the saver, the employer who doesn't actually remit money, will be fined 20% of the money that has been deducted even over a long period of time, and then because it to pay even the money that has been deducted. So I think it has been made flexible a bit. So because the debate was that supposing somebody is as a business of 100,000, why do you fine him 10 million and take him, subject him to 3 years prison or imprisonment without boss? So I think that was amended on the floor of Parliament. So it will be now that when an employer deducts money and doesn't remit, and it is found out so, you will be eligible to pay, will be fined 20% of the deducted money, and then be caused to pay even the money that that person has deducted, the employer has deducted. So that's a bit flexible and I think manageable. Yeah.
Well, let me have your final remarks regarding this amendment, and of course hope to Ugandans that this time around we shall see the president assent to it and we shall have the law and them enjoy their midterm benefits.
Thank you. Viewers, I want to thank you all for listening and viewing and being patient and having confidence in the Parliament. I want to thank the Committee on Gender, Labour and Social Development, the Minister of Finance, Gender, because I think there was an open dialogue and they all actually consented. I want to thank the President for giving audience and really listening to the leaders and stakeholders. So this time around, I would like to urge all the savers in this category to plan adequately. When this midterm access starts, you should be able to see, such that at least the economy now can even grow. You see, most economies have grown because of families. You can look at Ford. Ford was just a family, but all over the countries, all over the globe, you can see Ford vehicles everywhere. And a lot of examples. So even you, as a saver, as your family, you can be an investor and really become somebody who can actually be an example for development. So I want to thank UBC for giving us an opportunity to enlighten and share with the viewers about this very sensitive topic of social security. I thank you so much. Well,
thank you, Honorable Biakatonda Abdul, who happens to be, that is the Workers MP in the 11th Parliament, but also member of the Gender Committee of Parliament and also member of the Public Accounts Committee for Local Government, for having found time and to discuss the Nssf Amendment Bill 2021. It now awaits the President to assent to it, and if that is done, then it will be a law that will give savers that have saved for 10 years and have clocked the age of 45 to be able to get 20% of their benefits, of their savings. But also for those with disabilities, 10 years they have clocked that age, then they can get 50%. But also employers being more pinned to ensure they remit to the fund. We hope and pray that these funds, once those categories that qualify get this money, they'll put it to proper use. Like the Honorable said, it is now time that you start planning. If you don't have a good, workable, profitable plan, do not tamper with this money because it won't be mandatory. It is optional for you to get that 20% at that desired time or wait for the lump sum when you finally clocked that retirement age for your social security. Have a lovely day. I'll leave you with Ruben Mpima Kasera Chibidango to take you through the world of sports. We are from our weekend and very interesting stories have happened there. Good morning. Keep it with us here on UBC TV.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means